Hello, this is a video going over lesson 1, topic 3, physical controls for cit251. So let's get started. So we're going to look at physical controls as kind of the third category again. The third type of control we talked about administrative controls, in which something administration can do or business management can do, and we also talked about technical controls, which are technical things we can do to control to secure our network. The last thing we're going to talk about is actual physical controls, actual physical devices to bar access or to protect our physical assets. All right. Again, whenever we try to understand something, and it is a large, complex, and this could be your area of particular study or expertise. It is a large field, and when we are trying to understand a large field, we try to break things down and classify them. And in this regard, for security, we have active versus passive. We have active controls and passive controls. And we have interior versus exterior goals. Okay, so we'll talk about those different type of control types and the different goals of the physical controls. And again, we're going to talk about perimeters. Again, it's a kind of a basic principle of security is we're going to try to form perimeters, right? Let's talk about active versus passive. An active system is a system in which it's going to react. It's going to detect and react to a security threat. How is it going to react? Well, nowadays we just have really either humans, or we can have it digitally react. Send us an email, send us a text message that a motion sensor is activated, or a door striker, or some kind of physical presence has been detected, so it sends us again a message of some type. But usually actual people, guards, employees, police. Those are the bulletproof ways. I kind of put AIs in there. There is like camera software that will detect based off the movement of a person that there's a person in a room, and it can send notifications. So is that an AI, right? That type of thing. But the whole point is an active system is going to do something, right? It's going to react to an unsecure, unwanted situation. All right, we have a choice of either doing alarms or alerts, right? An alarm actually makes a noise that everyone, including the perpetrator, can hear, hopefully scaring them away and stopping the unwanted situation from happening, or stop it in mid-happening. Or we can have a simple alert, something quiet, right? Something that notifies just the people that need to react to the situation, right? That's more of an alert. Again, that's a debate. Depends on what your goals are for the physical control. We also, not logs. Logs do not count as doing something, right? Just logging it does not occur. Remember, that's the very definition of a passive system. It does detect the unwanted situation, but it doesn't do anything. It just records the unwanted situation. They might deter by presence. That again is not a wise strategy. Most criminals simply don't care, or they wear a mask or something along those lines, right? Cameras, for example, I've sat in a meeting and I had someone say, I was like, well, it'd be good to have a couple cameras up to help prevent crime, and the person, not me, but the person to my left said, if you think cameras stop crime, then go to YouTube and type robbery, and you'll see how well cameras stop crime. Cameras do not stop crime, right? They help you solve who did it after the fact. They let you figure out what happened after the fact, but they don't stop situations, right? They're passive. Now, if you have someone watching a camera, a guard watching a camera, and they detect something's amiss and are able to react to it, then that's an active, right? But a passive is something like a door log, an access log, I'm trying to think what else we could have as a passive. Well, door itself, an unlocked door, even a locked door is passive. Even if I pick the lock, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to send out an alert, right? We have bollards, fences, that's a passive. It's not going to do anything, right? It's just going to be there. It might try to deter it by its simple presence, but it's not going to do anything. All right. So there, signs are another good one. Signs are passive, right? They just sit there. If people follow them, they follow them. If they don't, they don't. It doesn't. It's not that sign's not going to go shoo away this bird now, right? So there you go. Let's talk about exterior versus interior. Exterior controls, you're going to do things like, one of the biggest difference between exterior controls is they're going to be primarily about just funneling people, funneling cars. This is the state backup site, the old Tech High School down the street from Stick. I walk by it very often, and I do kind of take note of its excellent physical security, exterior physical security. In this case, we have fencing. It doesn't look very tall. That's just this is from Google Maps. But that is a very tall fence. It's actually taller than me. It's about probably 8 feet tall. So that's very sturdy fencing, and it's tough to see. But these bars are actually horizontal bars, right? If you notice also, there's nowhere in the middle to climb, so it's helping prevent climbing. And up top here, they are pointed off, right? These are pointed off tops of fences. This right here goes into a concrete platform, which goes into the ground another couple feet. That would help stop a car trying to ram through here. All right. So it's almost like a bollard. There are also bollards. Here's a bollard. There's a bollard, right? These go deep into the ground, and they prevent a car from ramming. Okay. Camera-wise, there are cameras here. They're hard to see on the building, but there are cameras on the building, and there are cameras certainly right here. Okay, these are to look at the license plates of cars coming in. All right, and there's cameras. Look at the both the license plate and the undercarriage of a car. Cameras can be in the exterior. Of course, they're going to be ruggedized for the weather. Signage is something you might want to put on the exterior of a building. Lighting, therefore enabling your signage and your cameras, right? Anti-climb collar. Anti-climb collar on a fence is kind of a something goes on top that prevents someone from climbing over it. A roller barrier is another type of thing where it's simply kind of a roller. It's a rolling, log for that way. When you put your hand on top, your hand kind of falls off, right? Barricades. So in this case, if we had like some kind of Jersey barrier to kind of force people in to go this way, right? That'd be a barrier. Bollards I talked about. There's a couple bollards here. Video surveillance we talked about. Motion detection. Door access. So here we are. This is a little pole that helps that people have to present their credentials in order to get in or out. So there you go. And then talk about card access as well. There's different types of card access. We have like proximity cards that you simply touch, and it's going to send. Prox cards are not the most secure thing in the world because there's no processor on the card. They're not built for. They're not built for. Well, they're not built to be expensive. They're built to be inexpensive. So the card is often just sending out a number, so that they're easily bypassed often. We do have the cipher lock. So cipher lock is just hitting the number lock in there. There's also better forms of card access. There's card access with using smart chips, RFIDs, which are much better than just proximity cards. Good old-fashioned keys, deadbolts. Right, again, we talked about alarms versus alerts, right? What's our goal? Do we want to scare people away? Do we want to catch them in the act? All right, again, signage. So let's talk about some interior controls. I do want to talk about that. Now, another big difference in interior controls are the constraints of indoor versus outdoor. We already have walls that we have to keep in mind, although some of the walls aren't the most thick walls, especially in a business environment. You're going to have a lot of drywall, and drywall is not very secure. And you have to a little bit worry about overhead. People could climb up into the overhead as well. But for the most part, movement is a little bit more constrained, and you can know where they're going to go or not going to go, right? But door access is another thing you really want to have in an interior control. Cameras, again, cameras are much easier indoors because, again, you can watch the hallway, right? You know what way they're going to use the hallway as compared to the outdoors. Are they going to go all the way to the left of the building, to the right of the building? Kind of have to cover everything, right? Lighting, motion detections. A man trap essentially is, again, what a man trap does is it prevents tailgating. Let's go back into my sketch pad, and I'll have to load up the new one. All right. So a man trap, again, if you have a door access system, and essentially here's the door and it swings, we'll make it swing out, right? If I walk up to the door, if the first person walks up to the door and they go to let someone into that door, right, they're going to open the door for them. Well, if someone walks up to go to the door and there's a card access machine right here, and I doot my card, so I got a card reader and it reads my card, and then door unlocks for me. I open it up. If someone tries to walk in right behind me, it's extremely awkward, and believe me, I've done it at times and I've not done it at times, to slam the door in the next person's face. Okay, even if it's policy, even if it's the right thing to do, even if the assets are really important in there. I personally would pick up my kids at the daycare every day, and invariably a parent would be coming in behind me, or what I thought maybe was a parent coming in behind me, and I'd punch in my wife and my access code to go in and get the kids, and I would feel guilty if I did not hold that door open to the person right behind me, right? Even though that door is protecting those kids, right? We're talking little kids that could be stolen, right? So and people kind of have this expectation because we're humans. We like to do nice things to each other for the most part, right? So anyway, open the door and you let someone in. Well, what you can do to help prevent that is if you build a second door, right? So you build some kind of room, and then you have another door behind that's, again, can swing open, right? And you need another card access to get into that door, right? So if I have another door here that needs to swing open for me to come in, if this first person comes in, I can get the first door for them, and they're already going to beat me. They can get the second door for me, right? If they sit there and they play with their phone, or they stare at the corner of the wall, that's going to be an awkward situation. Something's going to be wrong, right? By having a man trap or having two different doors and making it plainly obvious if a person doesn't have access to that door, you're preventing tailgating. All right. Another important concept I want to talk about, before we get protected distribution system, let's talk about access log. An access log is a good idea, just to, especially on meet-me rooms or rooms where you have multiple network providers or multiple people's networks, to companies' networks in a room, to have an access log. That way we know who's been in and out. We have a record of this. Hopefully a security guard let the person in, and the security guard enforced that they had to sign off on the access log. All right. So let's one important thing I want to talk about is protected distribution systems, which is kind of pictures right here. So this is a little less protected, and this does have conduit protecting the cables, and lockable boxes so people can't get to the ports underneath them. So that does make them somewhat protected, right? But this is much more protected. See, this is a metal. This is actually metal. This is a metal conduit protecting that wiring, right? So if we had to take our wiring and put it through another person's office, or, I'm not even saying in this case it's in this office right here, which again, it makes sense to do. But if we're going through a different area that we don't control or don't have eyes on, it would make a lot of sense to make sure we protect that by putting it in some very strong conduit of some type, okay? Or having lockable conduits, something to lock it in, right? Also having shielded cable, preventing it from electromagnetic. Again, that's something we have to worry about. We have to worry about natural disasters too in security, not just hackers and all that stuff. We have to worry about natural disasters. Shielded cables are grounded at both ends. That way, if there's a lot of EM, electromagnetic interference in the atmosphere, the shielded cable can absorb that hit. All right. Cable locks, this is what we have. Whoops, I clicked. Cable locks, this is what we have. The picture is right here on a laptop. Again, this is a way to have a laptop out and not have to watch it like a hawk 24/7. You have something that they'd have to bring a bolt cutter to take it off, and so at least I can give it a little bit more leeway, right? A safe and a secure cabinet, about the same thing. They're a container, a hardened container to contain valuable assets. Asset management, well, you got to be able to know what you have in order to protect it, right? So inventory control, knowing your serial numbers of your devices, that's an important part as well. Screen filters is something you can put on a device, either a laptop or a desktop, that makes it more difficult for shoulder surfing. Soldier surfing is when someone looks over your shoulder while you're working. And trying to read what you're doing. If you have a filter, it can use polarization. That makes it more difficult for you to look past them. All right. Here it is an example of a floor pan that's using some physical controls. We have some bollards preventing someone from ramming our door. Whoever did our racks really like the idea of putting them out front, which I guess they look really good. They're nice glass walls. But the problem is, what if someone wanted to do denial of service attack on us and crash into this, right? Use some kind of device to just kind of ram through these two doors, ram through this door, and take out our server racks. By putting a bollard here, two bollards, we're kind of preventing anything from being this thick, at least, to knocking out our devices. We have card readers on the doors. We have a man trap here. This is an example of a man trap. Instead of me drawing it, I kind of just came over here. So someone's been stealing food apparently, because we have card readers on the kitchen. So it's going to provide an access log, right? If we can sit there and say, okay, who stole my yogurt? We can see who went in at 12 o'clock. We also have, more importantly, an access card reader on our data room, on our server room. Okay. So interesting notes in this building, by the way. It's a fire trap. There's no secondary exit anywhere here. Usually secondary exits are a good idea. So there you go. There's no real door access. I'm guessing there's locks, but there's no door access really on the office doors. That's pretty par for the course as well. All right. Next thing we're going to talk about is, there's a picture of it here in this picture, is the heat management of these racks. It's something else we have to worry about in IT, right? Especially in our data center. We produce a lot of heat, right? And we have to worry about that heating and air conditioning, right? Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, right? So one thing that's an important concept in IT now is hot and cold aisles, to have our racks organized so that we can control the hot air. First of all, we have to point all our devices in the same direction, which sounds easy, but a lot of manufacturers can't agree if the front or the back is what should blow or what should suck, right? So you should blow out hot air all in one direction, right? That's what we're doing here. And then we have a cold, and we can suck in from the cold aisle right here and right here, right? We can suck in cold air. So cold air comes in, hot air comes out. That sounds simple. It sounds like common sense, but it can be fairly difficult. It can be fairly difficult. It takes some coordination and agreement from all people in IT, or at least a top-down edict. Something else we have to worry about nowadays is Fire suppression. Again, we have the basic concepts of fire, the basic building blocks of fire. We have heat, right? A catalyst, in this case, oxygen, right? Mostly oxygen. Normally, mostly oxygen, but that's the catalyst. That's going to be it's going to be what helps cause the reaction of creating more heat. Then we have the fuel, which is the combustible material itself, right? And then we have the chain reaction, the process of all three, right? So we're going to have, in this picture here, we have heat, we have oxygen, it looks like wood, right? And then we have the chemical reaction of those three that cause fire, okay, a spreading fire. So how does it affect IT? Well, we have to worry about fire suppressors, right? Suppressors. Water, gas, foam are all possibilities. Well, water, not so much, right? We have a lot of expensive equipment. It tends to have electricity running through it. It tends not to be waterproof, primarily for air ventilation purposes, and it can cause more damage than the fire itself. If you spray a bunch of water on a overheated smoking server. So we can't use water. There's other terms. You have other things you can use, like gas, for example. Halon gas is. It's interesting that a halon, when you shoot in the air, combines with the oxygen to form an inert gas. And therefore taking away one of the three legs, the catalyst, and causing the fire to stop. So if you suck all the oxygen out, of course, if you're in the room, it's not very good because you're sucking all the oxygen out of the room and people are going to die. So we have chain reaction. Why is there an extra E in oxygen? That's better. It lets it too. It's almost like it thinks it's fine. Foam is the newest technology, the preferred way to do it nowadays, where there's foam that helps take away the heat and the oxygen away from a fire and prevents the chemical reaction. So there you go. Those are all things. We have to consider. So, physical controls. In summary, there are active and passive physical controls. There are interior and exterior physical controls, and controls that could be used both internally and externally. Remember perimeters of defense. Again, we have an outside. We don't want to just simply say, okay, you got inside the building, therefore you are who you say you are, and everything's fine. First of all, Joe from accounting probably doesn't need to be in the server room, right? So even if you are allowed inside the building, we still want to also set up interior perimeters, just like we do on the network. Like think of the DMZ, right? Not everyone should be getting on the DMZ, right? Maybe administrators can go there, but there's no need for our everyday users to have full access to everything on the DMZ, right? So same thing about the inside of a building too. All right. Remember, so security is about specific concerns and general best practices. So knowing what you need to secure, and in general following good rules, even if you don't know what you got to secure, in your best practices. HVAC is often controlled by facilities, but IT must live in that world. So we have to work with facilities to maintain it. So this was a quick presentation. I hope that suits you fine. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.